Hi everyone. All right, I'm excited to talk to you guys about parallel lifetimes, parallel timelines. Whichever word or phrase resonates with you most, we are talking about the parallels of a soul's existence. So before I dive into that, I do want to say the best way to view this video is really with an open mind. It will resonate on some level or it won't. And if it doesn't, that is completely okay, because I want to give you guys some background here. Spirit has given me a lot of information, and there have been many times where that information has been hard for me to place in my brain, and it requires some undoing of left brain conditioning for it to find a place. And sometimes that takes place over an extended period of time. There's been some concepts they've shown me that now are just a normal part of my understandings, and it fits. And to me, I'm like, well, of course. But it took sometimes months or years to get there. So sometimes they would present a topic to me and I would be like, I don't even know what you want me to do with this. I don't understand it. Doesn't make sense. And they're like, you just need to have heard it, put it on the side. So I'll put it aside. And then something will take place that brings it back again about 3 months later, 6 months later, sometimes a year. And what's happened is that piece of information was like a seed, a base framework for me to then come back to the experiences that are happening and apply them to this base piece. So I explain that because wherever you are in watching this video, as if this is totally out there, or you're like, this is filling in some blanks for me, or you may be like, I already know. Let it sit where it needs to sit. If it's reaffirming something, that's awesome. If it's totally brand new and mind-blowing, that's awesome too. Let it be what it needs to be. So again, when I'm talking about timelines and lifetimes, there's two kind of scientific theories that really resonated for me in the way that Spirit showed it to me or helped me understand. So the first one is the bubble theory. And basically, bubble theory, I'm going to go like this. Bubble theory. I realize that's a little backwards for you guys, but that's okay. This is the idea of the bubble theory of timelines. So if you look at it this way, what they are saying is that there are many universes mimicking each other with slight differences at the same time. And they're formed in different bubbles. And so the idea is that when a soul comes into a lifetime, a soul then splits or fragments into multiple different experiences of itself to gain the most amount of knowledge. Now, for some people, that right there is just like, I get it. But the idea is the soul would fragment into many different parallel versions of themselves. And I like this idea because we can wrap our minds around it, because if any of you have seen, which most of you have, The Grinch or The Lorax, this is the idea that they base it on. If you think about it, in The Grinch, they come down to a snowflake, and that whole world of The Grinch is happening on one single snowflake, like that. But there's many snowflakes. Or like The Lorax, I believe they go into a drop of water, right? And so this is their idea of multiple bubble universes that we are a part of when our soul comes from wherever it comes from and splits into multiple experiences. I like that one. It makes sense, but there's a better one. The one that I really like is the membrane theory. And this is why when I put the video out just the other day, I was talking about a membrane, that membrane is really thin, because this one really resonated. So here's membrane theory. And the way to look at it is like a book or a newspaper, okay? So if I have, take it this way. Here is my book or newspaper, okay? Like so. I hope you guys can see that. Maybe I'll go over it this way. Okay, there's my book or newspaper. Within that book, I've got all my different pages, right? And so on and so forth. So what the idea is when a soul comes down, they come down in what we could compare to, just to wrap our minds around, like a newspaper. So the newspaper has an entirety to it. It's its own entity, complete with understandings, information, and everything. But they are divided on different pages. So it's like this idea that the soul comes in as a wholeness, but is split into multiple different pages. each page having its own unique experience. And so what happens is we say we're living right now, this experience of me doing this video is happening on page 1, right? What's happening lately though is that in dream state, people are starting to have experiences, say on page 3 or 4, in vivid conscious awareness and memory, and then they pop back to page 1 when they wake up and it feels off or different. And it's kind of confusing because there's a resonance of something specific having happened. So I like this one because this is separated by membrane. And when I say membrane, with a newspaper, it's separated by air. Air separates the pieces of paper, right? But think about this. Spirit said the membranes right now are becoming thinner or more permeable. If I was to throw a bunch of water on this newspaper and get it wet, it would pull those pages or timelines closer together and they would kind of lump together. And that's that same idea energetically of what's happening right now, is it's pulling those pieces together so we more easily can go from page 1 to page 10 and back to page 3 and so on and so forth if we are open to it, or if there's a purpose to the experience. And with this whole raising of consciousness that we're going through right now, there is definitely purpose, even though sometimes it's confusing. So this permeability is happening right now through these pages or these lifetimes, which is making it somewhat confusing when we're trying to focus here on page 1. So what does this mean? Well, what it means for right now is when you feel like you're, skipping time or bouncing around in different places, or your dream state is really so far out, it's making it hard for you to be here. Come back to grounding, come back to center, come back to this alignment. There's purpose in it. So I'm going to leave that idea with you guys right now to ponder. I'm going to come back with another video of a deeper dive in with an interview with a dear friend of mine. But just ponder this idea, the bubble theory versus the membrane theory. Membrane being the best way that I can explain it in relation to how Spirit showed it to me. So I hope that makes sense. I'll be back soon.